Welcome to Indispensable, Connection Ministries' video training series for churches and volunteers who are building Christian community with adults with intellectual disabilities. This episode is titled Networking to Recruit Friends with Disabilities and is the first episode on awareness.
My name is Jackie Schaefer, and welcome to Indispensable, a video training series for friendship groups with adults with intellectual disabilities. This series is for churches and volunteers ministering with adults with intellectual disabilities. We will cover many topics ranging from defining a vision, raising awareness, being a good companion, and effective teaching. In this topic, we discuss methods for recruiting friends with intellectual disabilities and volunteers for your friendship group. This process requires both networking with those who are in the lives of people with disabilities, as well as educating and creating visibility for disability ministry in your church. In this topic, there will be 2 episodes, each covering one of these important tasks. Don Bowden will now explore the process of networking with those who are in the lives of people with disabilities.
When talking with church leaders about the need for ministering with adults with intellectual disabilities, common response is, there isn't anyone in our church like that. This statement may be true for many churches, yet people with intellectual disabilities, their families, and support staff live and work in many of these communities. Years ago, people with intellectual disabilities were a hidden population. They lived at home with protective families or in institutions, but this is less the case today. Most people with intellectual disabilities still live at home with families, while others live in homes or apartments supported by service providers. There are some who even live independently. Some attend schools, have jobs, volunteer, and participate in other meaningful activities in their communities. From a 2005 study, Connection Ministries learned that there are an estimated 28,000 people with intellectual disabilities in our 9-county service area of central Indiana. These people will not be included on publicized mailing lists, and for many, they are also not included in our churches. To connect with people with intellectual disabilities in your community, you need to know where to look. You will need to network with people who are in their lives. You may even discover some of these people are members of your church. The key ingredients to finding people with intellectual disabilities is networking and relationships. And like salt and pepper, these 2 ingredients are always served together. If you already have a ministry with people with disabilities in your church that you are trying to grow, the best path is through your friends with disabilities and their families. They are far better inviting friends to church than most church members. Encourage them to invite their roommates, friends from work, or other activities that they're involved in. Most people with intellectual disabilities live at home with their families, but even those who live independently or in settings that are supported by residential service providers, many of them still have family members who remain involved in their lives. Families who remain involved are usually very interested to learn about social and spiritual opportunities for their family members with disabilities. Some are members of churches and are excited to learn about a church, especially if it is their own church, that is intentional about including their family members. These families have strong networks with other families through their involvement in some of the great organizations we'll talk about in this topic. If you build strong relationships with these families, they will help connect you with more families and the organizations where they are involved. As you meet a family member, take time to develop a personal relationship with them. Be warm and inviting. Let them share their story. Invite them to visit and participate in your church's group. Service providers fill many important roles. They provide a variety of residential supports and community-based services. Most service providers are secular but find great value in people with disabilities. They have a strong interest in helping the people they serve form meaningful relationships in the community, and some will value the role churches can play in their lives. There may be members of your church that are employed by one of these service providers. The main offices for many of these providers can be found through an internet search. The Indiana Association of Rehabilitation Services, INARF, is an association for service providers. Most states will have a similar association. A directory of members can be found on their website. Networking within these associations can help identify providers in your area. People with intellectual disabilities are considered a vulnerable population group. For that reason, you will not find the location of a home supported by a service provider through an internet search. However, these folks live in homes located in the same neighborhoods as the members of your church. Your members probably know where these homes are located. Ask them to help you locate both the families and the service providers who care for them. As you learn about a home in your community, be intentional. Meet with the family, support staff, or home supervisor. Establish relationships with them. As you network, strive to meet the service provider's management staff, which can lead to meeting people with disabilities whom they support. With every opportunity, tell people about the ministry in your church for adults with disabilities. It is the responsibility of the service providers to seek opportunities in their community that are inclusive with the people they support. You will be helping them meet their goals. Get to know the staff by visiting your friends with disabilities in their homes. You can also arrange for members of your congregations to do service projects for their homes. You can organize fellowship events like sports parties at the church or a cookout at their home. These are wonderful first steps in welcoming those with disabilities into the church. Attend the activities that the adults with disabilities attend, like Special Olympic events. Take the time to get to know the staff that brought them to the event and distribute information, flyers, and etc. about your ministry. Each person with a disability that is in the system for services is assigned a case manager. This is the person that advocates for the person with the disability and manages their services that they receive. A member of your church may even be a case manager. Networking with one of these case managers who shares your vision can lead to meeting many more people with disabilities. In recent years, more people with intellectual disabilities are living more independently and even finding employment in their communities. You have probably had a person with a disability bag your groceries or bus the table at a restaurant where you frequent. There are not enough community-based jobs available for everyone with a disability. Others may not be suited for community-based employment. Some work in work centers commonly called sheltered workshops. It's possible that a member of your congregation may work for one of these work centers. Some work centers use volunteers for a variety of activities. Locate the work centers in your community and establish a relationship with the leadership. Team members can build relationships with their staff by volunteering in these activities. The relationships formed through these activities can draw friends with disabilities to your church's ministry. You will probably find in your community that many associations and social organizations have formed to meet the needs of people with disabilities and their families. Some have a national scope, while others remain small, local organizations, but still offer important resources and relationships for the people they serve. The organizations mentioned in this episode is not an exhaustive list. It does not include many of the small but still important groups. We have listed Indiana organizations, however, other states have similar organizations. Through networking with family members and caregivers, identify the groups that impact your local community and develop relationships with them. The ARC has a history that dates back to the 1950s when a small group of parents and other concerned individuals came together to advocate for people with intellectual disabilities. They are involved in research, public policy, and direct services. In Indiana, as in most states, state and local chapters have become important providers of services and supports. Down Syndrome of Indiana is an important organization for the information and resources on Down syndrome. The programs they offer are intended to promote the inclusion of individuals with Down syndrome in their greater community. These programs also offer support and information to families, caregivers, educators, employers, and the professionals who serve individuals with Down syndrome. The Autism Society of Indiana is a leading resource in Indiana for connecting people who live with autism and those who care about them. They offer resources, support, advocacy, and information tailored to their unique needs. They strive to create communities throughout the state in which people on the autism spectrum and their families are empowered and supported fully and embraced in their community. Special Olympics is nationally the most visible social outlet for people with disabilities. They empower people with intellectual disabilities to realize their full potential and develop their skills through year-round sports training and competition. These athletes become fulfilled and productive members in their families and the communities in which they live. Special Olympics is an experience that is energizing, healthy, skillful, welcoming, and joyful. Best Buddies envisions a world where people with intellectual disabilities are so successfully integrated into schools, workplaces, and communities that its current efforts and services will become unnecessary. Until that vision becomes a reality, the organization will continue to educate middle school, high school, and college students, community members, corporations, and employers about the emotional, functional, and natural needs and abilities of people with intellectual disabilities. In each of these organizations, threads exist that connect with the vision and mission of the ministries in your church. But most importantly, your church's mission offers them the good news of Jesus Christ. There is a good chance that members of your church are involved with one of these groups. Find a way to network with these groups and trust God that He will benefit both your church's ministry and theirs. It has always been about relationships with God, and it will be about relationships as you recruit future friends with disabilities as part of the ministry in your church. Thank you for watching this episode on networking to recruit friends with disabilities. Next to this video on our website, you will find a link for the note pages that you can download and print. Be sure to visit our website to review the second episode on this topic titled Raising Awareness and Recruiting a Team. If you have any questions or need information, you can email us at connect@connection-ministries.org or call our office 317-646-5067. Your prayers and financial gifts help Connection Ministries provide valuable resources for churches and families ministering with adults with intellectual disabilities. You can give online at www.connection-ministries.org.